This is a true story. The craziest trip ever starts off in a rural area of Amish country at my buddy's house. A few of my friends have come upon a new drug that seemed to be cool. This drug, Jimson weed, was a small black seed that had a taste almost like nuts or a sunflower seed. Many of my friends had been dabbling with this drug now for a few weeks, taking a few pinches and then teaspoons, trying to experience a trip type deal. When the cash flow was limited and a good friend Brent and I had nothing better to do one night, we decided to dance with the devil. We ate probably 5 to 7 full spoonfuls, I'm not quite sure. It was a decent amount. Once I left his home, when we were walking towards Brent's car, we both looked at each other in disbelief because we saw a bunch of little schoolgirls running across the street, all in little white and blue skirts with blonde pigtails. Then on the ride we started to lose our cigarettes and lighters. Or we thought we were. Most of the times you never even had a cig. All hallucinations. Once this happened, the rest of the night is pretty much a blur. We went to my house, where we came upon 3 of our friends outside my basement door leading to my room. Our one friend was so drunk he had the other 2 carrying him with his feet dragging behind him. This kid was an alcoholic who could handle his shit. I was real messed up and didn't want to deal with a drunk kid who was puking, so I told them to leave and go back to his house. Upon leaving, the 2 kids got in a high-speed police chase for 45 minutes and my friend would have got away, but his Mustang ran out of gas. Adds to the craziness of story, the next morning I woke up and Brent was gone. My mouth had a layer of crust around it from the dehydration. Basically I had to scrub my face and peel it off my lips. A few minutes later, a local police officer was knocking at my front door. He came into my room with my parents asking what my friend Brent had taken. I claimed to know nothing. The cop told me that Brent was walking a block away with no pants or shoes at 6 in the morning. When the cop tried to talk to him, he couldn't communicate. Somehow Brent told the police where he lived or something, then they took him to the emergency room to get the shit out of him. After the police officer left, he went out to Brent's car to find a baggie with about 2 ounces of these dried seeds. They didn't do anything about because they are not illegal. In Brent's pants was 1/8 of weed and a wallet, and to this day it has not been found. When the police was at my house, I somehow sobered up to the point where I could communicate, but after that it was all over. I tripped for possibly 24 more hours. I went upstairs to talk to my parents about what happened. During a meaningless conversation with them, I tried to convince them I wasn't indeed under the influence of anything. I ended up trying to prove to them I wasn't messed up, so I proceeded to write the ingredients down from the back of an ice cream container, but when I wrote the ingredients down they made no sense whatsoever. My writing was random lines, circles, and scribbles. I tried to convince my parents that those were indeed the ingredients, which they were not at all even close to words. When talking you thought you knew exactly what you were saying, but when you spoke it was all jumbled words that meant nothing. My parents knew something was wrong. They moved me to a bedroom to rest. I sat in this room and hallucinated for quite some time. I was wrapped in an orange blanket on a bed looking at a ceiling fan. Then my friend Ben was hanging off the ceiling fan. Then he proceeded to run and play hide and go seek with me in my house. Then I would hear voices of friends saying, "Ally oxen free," the age-old hide-and-seek phrase. After this happened, I ran around my whole house looking for these friends. I thought that they were all hiding in the closets. It looked as if I could see them in the clothing and also hanging on the hangers, and then they would disappear. I would move the clothes yelling, "Come out." I thought this was a big game, all and everyone was against me. After this I think I went back to the bedroom and sat in the blanket. I decided to eat, or I thought that I was eating. I had a plate and utensils on my lap, and whenever I would look up something would disappear until I had nothing, and I was throwing the blanket in the air out of disbelief looking for the fork and meal that I just had. Then sometime my girlfriend came over. She really didn't, and I had long conversations with her, and I walked her out to wait for her mom. I was sitting on my front porch thinking that I was kissing my girl with my arms around her. I went back inside to my room in the basement. I looked up at the ceiling and bugs just started to fall everywhere. I tried to jump on a lot of them. They would disappear and friends would appear. The hide-and-seek game continued in the basement. Then I went outside the basement to find Kurt, now hiding in the rocks. This was upsetting me that all my friends were hiding from me, because from afar I could see them. Then once I got close, everyone would mold into the surroundings. I sat on my couch when one of the pillows turned into some Komodo dragon-looking thing exactly like the ones in Fear and Loathing Las Vegas. I didn't see the movie until after this experience, but the dragon started licking me with its tongue. It was scaring me quite a bit, so I ran upstairs. At this point in time my dad had called one of my friends, Kurt, to come and calm me down because I was running all over the house looking for him. This initiated a little bit of a reality check for me because I just got done looking for this kid outside my house in some rocks. A few hours after Kurt had left I was almost sober, and I was just wondering what the hell happened. Because the whole time I was on this I didn't even know I was on it. You forget that you even took anything. It's really weird. For 2 days I was still not right. I couldn't read one word of anything. All writing was completely blurry. That afternoon I meet up with Brent by coincidence at the school parking lot. He told me the horrors at the hospital while entirely out of his gourd. All of the above things looked, felt and tasted real. I would not consider this a trip. I think IT should be called modified reality because everything is so real it's scary. Every little detail your brain tricks you into believing it's real. Yet it's all a hallucination. Please, from first-hand knowledge, this stuff is no joke. You are a threat to yourself when on this. I don't recommend the use of it. I won't do it again, but it is crazy to see what the mind can do. Wow. A lover of the native Indian culture and a reader of C. Custanetta's Don Juan tales, I have long been in awe of the Jimson plant and its reputed power. Although aware of the plant's prolific growth in the local area, southeast UK, for several years before this episode, I certainly did not feel ready to approach the plant, in my troubled teenage years. A decision was made to ingest the mixture last year with a relatively new but trusted and close friend, Spoon. This decision could easily be made out to be a well-planned out and implemented one, and could, maybe, have turned out to be one, but it wasn't. That's the nature of the devil's weed. We combined knowledge from a recent reading of the first Don Juan book, recommended, with the combination of accounts from Irowid to suit our predicted requirements and dosage. A nighttime mission to a large Datura plant locally proved to be the first of many and were memorably fun. The first yielded 2 huge, bright yellow flowers and some fairly careful trimmings, a few ounces of leaves and plant matter. This was literally steeped in boiled water for a few minutes, maybe 10 ? Spoon, the flowers occasionally being lifted and swirled around. Intentionally, this was a small dose, but it certainly did not prove to be at all. Mine and Spoonie's experiences share similarities and have differences. Both lasted a day. Spoonie was picked up by parents bouncing on my mom's bed, duvets a cape trying to fly, vomiting, nearly dies, window, can't actually fly at all. Both had numerous figures sat on our bed, very conversational. Both had pale figure with red hair, mine had long face, Spoon's was squashed. Freaky. Spoon spoke to eggshells at his house, putting cardboard boxes on lit gas stoves. You may have gathered why we call him Spoon. Everything seemed perfectly normal and real for both of us. After Keel had been carted off home, I was dead sluggish plus sketchy, tuning in TV with light switches, looking for crystals on the stairs, my friend under my pillow. All real at the time, man. A friend was living with me at the time and heard me talking to people all night. They just perched on the end of my bed. One was this fine female who just said, "Dan, you've fucked up again, haven't you?" They'd just flick into someone else, real/imaginary. I kept thinking I was smoking imaginary fags, then I'd think I dropped it in bed and I'd scramble around for it. Spoon had the same shit. All in all, I don't think Datura is a drug you can responsibly recommend to anyone. It's not really pleasant or horribly otherwise, at least not for the user. But that's not what it's all about. It's about expecting to lose control. The devil's weed is likened to an evil temptress. If she wants to, she will lure you in. That is why I have a kilo of root drying somewhere. I don't know if I'll ever touch it, but it's there. I've read a lot on the topic of Datura and am well versed in herbs and plants as a herbalist for over 20 years now. I decided that I would make an extract using Jimson weed. I cut up into small pieces both the seed pods and the leaves. Placed about 3 grams of this into a small glass jar and added alcohol. I let this mixture cure for a few days, shaking it a few times a day. The ratio of alcohol to plant matter was about 2 to 1, or twice as much alcohol as plant matter. I used regular alcohol, rubbing. I then, after a few days, took and added a few drops of peppermint extract like you use for cooking to kill the odor and taste. I took an eyedropper and extracted some of the extract and put it on a regular cigarette. It only takes about 5 minutes for this to dry because of the alcohol. I smoked the stuff. The feeling I got was that of lifting of my spirit. Happy, warm body rushes similar to but not as strong as acid or mushrooms. Sexual stimulation was also a factor, erection, and a general feeling of well-being was present. This was all good. I decided to make the extract stronger by taking the plant matter while still in the alcohol and smashing it with a blunt tool. I used the butt of a screwdriver. This caused the alcohol to pull out more of the oils from the plant. I again used the eyedropper to extract this and coat a cigarette. The effect was more intense and I was having a lot of feelings of grandeur and sexual stimulation. Euphoric and flighty and very happy. This was nothing but a good feeling to me with no ill effects. I continue to use this now on a regular basis. My friends who don't know of my use of Jimson weed all swear that I am happier, more upbeat, and generally more pleasant. I also notice in the morning when I get up I feel less sluggish and am more active and coherent quicker. This is quite a contradiction to the bulk of information I have read on Datura. I took the same procedure listed above and did it with Angel's Trumpet, which is also in the Datura family, and had totally different and very unpleasant effect. It seems that the Jimson weed works great for me, but the Angel's Trumpet does not. The Angel's Trumpet causes tightness in my stomach, jerky muscle action, tightness in my chest, shortness of breath, and a headache. All this was done with the same amount of Angel's Trumpet as the Jimson weed, so I thought the Angel's Trumpet was a higher level of Datura in the plant, so I cut back and made the extract with half the amount of plant and got the same bad effect, only weaker. I would have to say on a physical level that the Jimson weed and I are friends, and its balance of various alkaloids is better for me than the ratio and balance of the Angel's Trumpet. I am very pleased with the Jimson weed extract with one exception. It is a little too enticing and its effect does linger a bit to make me a little spacey, but for me that's good as I'm too serious anyway. During a senior graduation trip to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I knew I wanted to party with my classmates, but I had never been one to drink alcohol. Instead, someone I considered a friend had offered me seeds which were claimed to be from a morning glory plant, and I planned to perform a crude LSA extraction. I soaked 180 seeds in water for a day, and then heated them in a small pan with vodka to about 200 degrees. I let the mixture cool, and mixed it into a water bottle. I drank the contents. It was slightly sweet yet noticeably bitter, somewhat like a cherry that had soured and been dipped in a bitterant. The concoction felt powerful as I ingested it, and I was filled with an anticipatory dread similar to the time I first smelled ayahuasca. I was in the passenger seat rolling a blunt on a Frisbee as we drove to the main street in North Myrtle Beach on a pleasant Monday in June 2009. The car stopped as we arrived at our destination, and I essentially collapsed out of the passenger seat, spilling the contents of the Frisbee on the sidewalk, all while a marked police car was 2 parking spots ahead. Although the officer was getting out of his car, he seemed not to notice, and I was ushered into the house. My vision closed in as I was walking up the wraparound porch steps to the 3rd-story beach house. This was my last memory for almost 48 hours. The rest of this story has been corroborated by multiple friends and witnesses and the police report. My behavior was consistently inappropriate and hostile. I was forced to leave the house party, and some friends took me to a hotel lobby bathroom to hide me and try to communicate with me. I escaped the bathroom, but could hardly walk and laid down on the hotel lobby floor. The front desk attendant stated he would call police as I was drunk and disorderly. Someone threw a 2-liter bottle of soda from a landing a few stories up that almost hit my head, and when orange soda exploded all over the lobby floor we were chased out of the hotel. At this point, my friends left me, and I was told I wandered onto the beach sometime after dark. The police report states that I was standing in the middle of the main drag in my underwear soaked with seawater, directing traffic while holding a dead fish that I must have found in a chum bucket on the beach. I was arrested by Officer P, and while I was sitting handcuffed on the curb, I slurred, "What did I do, officer? Did I get you pregnant?" Apparently there are some sexual overtones to this drug. It was at this point that she miraculously realized that I was not drunk, but in fact poisoned and in immediate need of paramedics. I was transported to the hospital and given antipsychotic medication, of which I unfortunately cannot remember the name, but which absolutely saved my life. The first glimpse of consciousness I had was waking up in a bright hospital room with a catheter and 4 lines. I must have removed these, because the next thing I remember is running down a hallway in my hospital gown and swinging open exit doors. I made it a few hundred feet into the parking lot before security apprehended me, and escorted me back to my hospital room. Apparently I made other attempts at escape until I was handcuffed to my bed and an officer or nurse was directed to watch me around the clock. After some 2 days in the hospital, I convinced the staff that my drink had been spiked, and no charges were filed against me as I had no other drugs in my system. Thus, the hospital classified my episode as an accidental poisoning. I also convinced them that I was no longer hallucinating. Our class president came and picked me up as I was discharged from the hospital on Thursday. I was convinced there were strangers in the back seat of the van, and opened the door in order to jump out of the moving vehicle. My friend restrained me, pulled over, and graciously let me inspect the vehicle before continuing to drive me back to our campsite. I saw countless animals and people that did not exist for the next day. Although my consciousness had returned, my sanity had not. I ran from imaginary creatures and hid behind trees, crawled under cars, and sobbed in my tent. I swam in the ocean and shrieked on the beach when I felt I was being attacked by a flock of imaginary birds. My antics were primarily confined to the time after sunset, because direct sunlight was incredibly painful to my eyes. By the 5th day, the hallucinations had ceased. I went out on the last night of this week-long bacchanalia with the friends that had, for the most part, ensured my survival, until they were fed up with my antics and let me roam a dark beach while experiencing true delusional hallucinations. That night I heard endless accounts of my actions. I actually ran into my arresting officer on the sidewalk, and she asked if I was feeling better. If someone claims to have identified a plant that contains LSA such as morning glory, be aware that it could in fact be a deadly Datura seed pod. Since this trip, I have gone on to study botany and horticulture, specifically plant toxicity as it relates to pest control. I wrote a research paper on Datura stramonium, and have participated in clinical studies of actual psychedelics. I will never, ever ingest a nightshade again. Before I start this report, please do your research on this plant. I went into this not knowing that much, and I really regret it. So this started at 2:20 a.m., with me taking 30 out of 50 seeds I had. I waited for like 1 hour and 30 minutes and nothing happened. So I ended up taking the other 20. Another hour passed and I figured it wasn't really Datura, considering I ordered it on Amazon. So being mad, I went to sleep. I woke up around 7 a.m., feeling very weird. Everything didn't feel right, and I felt very sick and thirsty. I couldn't get up to get water because I was recently hit by a car, so I called for my grandma. She brought me a water and asked if I was okay, and I said yeah. Why? And she said you look like you're scared, and your eyes are really wide. Then I said yeah I'm okay and she said okay and left. That whole conversation with her felt like hours, and it was only like 2 minutes. I started to drink my water, and it felt very uncomfortable. Like when I'd swallow it, it felt weird and it was making me sick. Now into the visuals. Around 8 a.m., I started seeing dogs, and people who were not there, but I thought they were. I was stressing out, and feeling sick, so I thought maybe my vape will help. So I grabbed it off my desk, and hit it. I blew out my vapor, only to realize I was holding one of my flat pencils. This really made me trip out and uncomfortable, so I tried to sleep. I don't really remember much when I was trying to sleep. But when 3 p.m. came around, my friend came over. When he walked in, the first thing he asked was, "Are you okay?" And what he told me the day after, is that I said something like Datura made me sick. I actually hit a pencil and blew smoke. Look at the dude watching me and a bunch of mumbling. So he told me I needed some rest and I tried to sleep but I couldn't sleep. So I just sat there with my eyes closed. Around 7 p.m. I leaned over and puked 3 times in the trash can, and laid back on my back. I actually fell asleep. The next day I felt weird, but better. So that's my experience. I've been taking different forms of hallucinogens for years now, from acid to DMT, but never have I experienced a trip so unnerving as the Datura trip I had recently been on. I've had acid melt things or I've acquired eagle vision on DMT, but every trip since this one have been distortions of reality and not true hallucinations of things, or people, that weren't really there. I heard that there was some Datura growing in a nearby park from a friend of mine that had just ate some of its flowers. He told me he was still tripping and he ate the flowers 3 days ago. He told me a little about his trip and I knew I had to try this plant. I figured it was more powerful for him because he isn't a regular tripper. His dose was 10 flower stalks, I think. After eating 8 of these flowers, bell shut off. It was very shortly thereafter that I began experiencing a body fry. It was much like a mushroom trip. The colors grew steadily brighter and a tracer effect relative to acid settled in about 20 minutes. I wandered away from the friends that I had dosed with and was walking by myself on a residential street. I kept trying to take a drag of my cigarette, but I realized that I didn't even have a smoke in my fingers. I was sure I was smoking a long cigarette though. I looked everywhere behind me and found nothing. This happened many times through the night. I heard someone walking behind me at one point during the trip. When I turned around I saw my friend Tree. I talked with him for a while as I walked, and when he wouldn't answer me I turned around to find a totally empty street. The next person I had seen was my friend Ron. I can't remember what we talked about because the moment I realized he had been dead for a year and a half I did a double take. He then turned into a parking meter. I was so stunned I had forgot the whole conversation. Another person I was asking directions from turned into a fence post. My friends tell me of some other crazy things I did which I don't quite recall, though they might be just messing with me. My friend Tree says that he was nowhere around me during my trip. He is a person to trust. The next day I ate 4 more flower stalks and went into a slightly less potent trip. The day after that I smoked some really kind weed and started getting visuals again. But no visions like the first day. I wouldn't suggest Datura to just anybody. Even an experienced trip head. I have taken many visual drugs and mind-altering substances, but I don't think I'll be tripping on this one for a very long time, maybe never. First of all, I would just like to say, wow, this shit is hardcore to an insanity level. I began doing a lot of research and hunting on the mysterious Datura plant. It began taking up a lot of my thoughts because that always happens with me until I get the drug and test it. I ordered 8 ounces of the stuff from a very good ethno site. When it arrived I was so bloody happy with a big bag, but the happiness didn't last long, until I sampled it. The time was around 10 p.m. and I decided Datura trip was going to go down. I got 5 dried, crumpled up leaves out and began brewing my Datura tea. When the mixture was sieved and a black liquid was left, I drank it very slowly and cautiously because of all the stuff I had read about it. As soon as my cup had gone I felt a full-on body buzz unlike anything imaginable. Now this seemed so far out because I think psilocybin is unexplainable unless you take it yourself, but this was too far out to even touch a psilocybin trip. A feeling of total and utter detachment from everything and everyone. A wide-eyed scary place which makes the human brain seem like it was never efficient at all. I began to lay down on my bed looking around waiting for the trip signs, but nothing came. I took a stroll to the mirror and hardly no outer ring was visible. I looked devilishly evil and felt it. Nothing seemed as if I had even drank something which would make one trip. At this point I felt pissed and a dirty high. I decided to try and sleep, at which point stuff got strange, very strange indeed. I closed my eyes and felt like something was not allowing the sleep to commence, so upon opening my eyes in the darkness I saw an image which I now know to have been a reality hallucination of my TV remote placed on the bed next to me where I was sleeping. I reached out to grab it, but suddenly it jumped on the floor. It felt weird because I knew it was there all along after I found it, but the hallucination tricked me seriously. This proceeded to happen 5 or so more times until I got pissed off, and then it seemed to stop, as if easing me of the trick's pain. Upon waking a second time I heard my mother speaking, so I thought that I better answer her, so I did. My mother was asleep the whole time, but I had seen her standing at my bedroom door. This little scene amused me because of the authenticity of the image. The only other scattered memories I have of my dreamy haze was waking up and suddenly speaking to unknown people, muttering but having conversations which felt needed and necessary. The next day my eyes were sore and blurry, and tripping still occurred in small amounts. At many points I saw people scurrying by my window wearing big coats and then vanishing. All in all, damn strange and insane. My advice would be, try it if you are seriously into hallucinating in an unholy way, because this shit will be your new reality for a day or more. I boiled the Datura foliage in about 2½ cups of water until it was black and smelled like a swamp. I poured it into 2 cups, half for now, half for later. I sipped it down in my room until it was gone and sat on my couch for about an hour. When I got up to take a piss I realized I could not walk and staggered into the bathroom and urinated and staggered back out. I tried to go back to my room, but I ran into the wall and said damn it, thinking it was not real, and I was upstairs in the hallway. I moved around the basement until someone woke up in my house, bitched, and told me to go to bed. When I woke up the next morning I was tripping mad balls and watched the tube for God knows how long. I went into the living room and some retarded chick gave me a fortune and I read it. It was the do not consume sticker from my bag of Datura. I went into my room again and stared into space for a long time. I was smoking the last of my cigarettes. After I had put them out I thought I was still holding them, so when I brought them down for the final drag they flew out of my hand and into nothing. I saw my friends Dan and Nate and decided to talk to them, and they said they were leaving to smoke weed. I did not realize it was Friday and they were at school, so I went into the living room again to get all of the kids back to the room. They all disappeared. I sat in my chair and noticed my covers were in fact a burn victim, so I stared at him for a while, and it was the pseudo dinner. Everyone from the house gathered around my desk and we had an imaginary dinner. I left my room and sat on the steps and began to read an imaginary book, and when I look at my strobe light it became some random friends. I was still fucked up for 3 days afterward. I was surprised when I found that Datura anoxia, or stramonium, grows near my house. I read a lot about the psychoactive powers of Datura and I had a plan to make an experiment by myself. So I collected some leaves and flowers and dried them. I also picked Datura seeds. First I ingested 10 mature seeds and waited for 2 hours. Nothing happened. I then thought that the plant was not a Datura or that maybe it contained low amounts of the drug. I then rolled a cigarette with tobacco and one medium leaf and smoked it. I waited for about 1 hour. Then I felt a dry throat, but apart from this no change in perception. I then smoked 100 non-mature seeds mixed with tobacco and waited an hour. I noticed was dryness in my mouth and in my throat. I also felt drunk, lightheaded. I had to go to urinate and drink more often than usual. But I didn't really realize that the drug was already working. This is, I think, one of the most dangerous aspects of Datura. You don't notice the entering in Datura reality. She tricks you. She tricked me, and she almost killed me. So, I was thinking, the dosage isn't correct, and I had to take some more to experience the thing. I then picked up a lot of leaves and flowers, blended all of it and made a tea out of it. The whole thing boiled for about 10 minutes. I got 2 cups of tea, it was very bitter. After half an hour later I felt extremely drunk. The colors of the world changed, everything was beautifully pastel-like. I checked my pupils, they were enormous. My hands were extremely dry and red. Then panic run over, I thought I will die because I overdosed and that the worst part is still coming. I wanted to call the hospital but I didn't know the phone number. Then I checked in the book for that damn number, but I couldn't read, I was really fucked. I then asked my brother, he was sober, to make the phone call for me. I remember him dialing a number. And the very next moment I was standing in front of the phone staring at it and wondering what the hell am I doing. Somehow I called the taxi and got to the hospital. But there nobody knew what Datura was. I could barely speak. I was forgetting what was I saying in the middle of a sentence. Fuck. The doctors then made me drink a charcoal, but I complained that it has an ugly taste and I refused to drink all that stuff. Then they attached me to an IV and a life monitor. I was hallucinating. At that time things weren't scary anymore. It wasn't pleasant either. It was weird, very weird. Around midnight I stripped of the IV and all other wires, put my clothes on and wanted to leave the hospital immediately. I was arguing with 2 or 3 nurses as they were trying to stop me and put me back in bed. The interesting part is that I thought that I was sober and capable of making such decisions. I didn't felt agitated, or bad at all, just a bit drunk and shaky. I then fought with the nurses and finally escaped. Then they screamed at me that I had to sign a certain document before I leave. So I signed up that damn piece of paper and got out of hospital. I returned home with a taxi. The next days I felt drunk and lightheaded. My shit was black, I was losing blood via internal bleeding. I am still recovering. Be careful with this stuff. You never notice the entering the experience, and here Datura easily tricks you. Be careful. This is what I found out after researching Datura and Brugmansia intensely for 1 month. If you are after an experience like this, I recommend to never ever touch Atropa belladonna, Tolkirsch, as it only gives you a nasty bunch of side effects, cottonmouth 3x as bad as with pot, inability to swallow, dryness of mucous membranes in general. Also, never ever eat anything from such a plant, making a tea will always decrease the toxic effects compared to eating raw material, besides increasing the taste. Datura stramonium, Thorndale, Schapfel. Datura Metal, Yerboloco, Mexican Thorndale. If you are about to try Daturas for the first time, I recommend picking about 4 to 8 stramonium blossoms that are not yet fully opened. A tea made out of them, start with 3 or so, gives you a good idea what the real buzz would be like and whether you'd like it. It certainly has a stronger buzz or high than the Mexican, which are a visual bomb, but hold more side effects. Datura white flowers are stronger and less applicable for side effects. Brugmansia sanguinea, Angel's Trumpet, Engelstrumpet. Brugmansia ellenica. Boracaro, Purple Angel's Trumpet. Angel's trumpets are the flowers of choice, in my opinion at least. First of all, they are easily dosed, 1 flower per person, have a taste that beats even most of the best pot blends. 2 flowers mixed into a bowl of weed are, beyond description. Opposed to Datura, Brugmansia whites are not as strong as the purple ones, but bear the least side effects. Shamanic hues. Almost never ingested raw, but rather made into a tea or paste. Boil water, turn heat off, Add blossom or leaves cut into little pieces and leave it on the stove till you can see a fine dermis on top of the water. Be careful not to forget screening out plant material. In fact, I never collect anything else than the flowers, as this hurts the plant the least and comforts me best. Since Daturas and all the others are present in every corner of the world, like ayahuasca in one form or another, it's little wonder that these plants are a common ingredient. Tropane alkaloids seem to take a slightly different effect in combination with MAOs. The combination with ganja is really great. In fact, I had trouble kicking the habit of my psychedelic brunch after 1 month. Watch out when taking a trippy dose, as you won't be able to read a bit for the next few days. Depends, I've seen anything from 1 day to several months. One wise word: I have to admit that I truly love Datura. In this last 1 month, I seldom had a sober day. But I am dead sure that high Datura doses are the fastest shortcut to HPPD and that continuous use is the same to heart problems. Strictly avoid stressful situations, sex, stimulants and all other drugs you know that raise your blood pressure. Drink a lot. Constantly check your heart rate. If inexperienced, use a sitter. Never ever touch your eyes with the fingers that touch the plant. Never take things too seriously while on it, cause most of it is not real. If you seem to not feel anything although a quite high dose has been administered, stop and try again another time. Psychedelics and haste don't mix. Peace. Slick. It started at about 7 o'clock at night. A friend and I went to a party at another friend's house. I brought some alcohol and a small film container filled with dried Datura leaves that I had gathered and dried from an Indian reservation in Arizona earlier that summer. I had a beer or two, and a shot or two of hard alcohol. Some time had passed, approximately an hour or so, and I decided that it would be a good idea to get out the Datura. Or Jimson weed as I refer to it, thorn apple, whatever you want to call it. I had read that it should be mixed with weed to not be as intense as the drug is known to be, but at present I was without access to weed. At about 10 p.m., I got out the Datura, and we rounded up a pipe to smoke it from. Between the three of us, we smoked 3 bowls of the substance. About 10 minutes later I began to feel its intense effects. My body's temperature skyrocketed, and I felt very disoriented. I decided to stay around the party for a short time after, approximately half an hour. By that time I had decided that it was time to go home. I was feeling a little nauseous and just wanted to go to bed. I got my sober friend to drive me back to my house after I said goodbye to everyone at the party and stumbled to the car. I could barely walk, my legs tightened and it felt like the ground was moving, but we finally got to the car. He drove me to my house, approximately 3 minutes away, and he helped me up to my room as he and another friend were staying the night. I had him throw on some music and I laid in my bed. I pulled the covers on me then threw them off because I was still burning up. I lay restless in my bed, and had my friend get me a glass of water to try and cool off. I began to close my eyes and it felt as if my head were jolting back and forth, my legs kept moving and I was severely stirring in my bed. I eventually drifted off to sleep around 2 a.m., and got up for work at 7:30 a.m. I went to work at 8 o'clock for an 8 o'clock shift. I felt disoriented and extremely underrested throughout the day. I had a very nice experience though it could have been bad due to the unpredictability of the drug and my inexperience with the use of this type of drug. I hope that everyone will have an equally beautiful experience and that they read up on the drug before dealing with it. I was lucky. So as my story went, I had ordered a 2-ounce bag of dried Datura foliage to trip off, since acid is damn near impossible to find at the moment around these parts. I acquired in the mail about 2 weeks ago and tried just eating it raw, smoking some, and drinking some in a tea. But no effects at all. I was disappointed. Well, I felt mildly drunk and had incredible dry mouth, but that was it. I've had one prior Datura moment, and that was last summer. I had ate a palmful of dried leaves, chased it with a beer, and was set. Highlight of that time was being told the following day, because I couldn't remember any of it, that I was sitting down in my kitchen table going through the entire process of rolling a blunt, cracking the filly, deseeding the buds, filling it, twisting it, that wasn't really even there. Glad I was entertaining for my house guests. So I was desperate to get that feeling of mindfuck back. I had that 2-ounce bag of dried Datura foliage, now down to a little over an ounce. I had a Lipton iced tea pouch and emptied it out and refilled it up with the Datura. So a big fat sack of tea was ready for me. I boiled down some water real quick and set the sack in for a good 15 to 20 minutes, occasionally squeezing it off with 2 spoons. This was around 9 p.m. when I started to drink it. I put it back in the fridge to get it cooled off a bit before drinking any of it. Got that out of the way and I soon afterwards chugged my elixir. Fast forward a little bit. Half hour or so. I dropped anchor. My upper body felt extremely heavy and my legs could not support me anymore. So like a blob of jello I fell to the ground. I'd crawl commando style to get around, which would only get me so far. I was on the floor of the living room by the couch. I tried desperately to get myself off the ground, but that was so difficult. I'd positioned myself by the armrest of the couch, my legs jiggling like a young deer learning to walk for the first time. I ended up leaning over the armrest, stand up straight, only to drop a few seconds later. Back to square one. Frederick was watching me the whole time laughing his ass off at my expense. And so would I, laugh that is. While I attempted to do that, I noticed my apple juice bottle on the computer table no less than 10 feet away from where I was currently laying. Took me damn near 10 minutes to get that frigging bottle. Once I had it, I dropped back down. No way I was gonna force myself up. I twisted off the cap and tried to drink it. But it wouldn't come out of the bottle. Hey Fred? The apple juice won't pour. He starts laughing at me. You need to tilt it more up, he said. So instead I tilt my head back more and leave the bottle the same. I got frustrated by this and put the cap back on and tossed the bottle to the side of me. Screw that shit. I managed to drag my lifeless corpse onto the couch and lay it up against the side. It was kind of dark in the room except for the glow of the widescreen in front of me. Took a few to get my head somewhat straight, and then I watched some TV. As I watched, I noticed a bug on the lower right corner of the screen. This house usually has bugs here and there, so whatever. I watched this bug. It was like a caterpillar/walking stick type of bug. I watched in awe as to how the hell it got inside and onto the TV. It slowly crawled off to the right, going off the TV and onto the stereo speaker that was next by. This was too creepy to me, so I wanted a closer look. I leaned off the couch a bit to get a closer look. And what the fuck? This bug I kept staring at the whole time was the damn gold Panasonic DAG that was on the speaker. My mind was playing tricks on me. I'm just gonna say I lost track of time here, but I'll try and piece it all together. After a while, my equilibrium was intact once again. I spent most of my time just playing online and just hunting down songs like I routinely do at night. To get to the bathroom, I'd have to get through the dining room first from the living room. I took this journey a few times. The ceiling is slow, so whenever I'd go to walk, I'd position my hands on the ceiling and couch, nearby shelf. I'd just try to brace myself any way possible. When I'd enter the dining room area, I'd collide with all 4 chairs as I tried to walk around the table to get to the door. I'd yell every time I'd hit them too. Then laugh. I'd make it to the toilet to take a piss, but nothing would come out. And then it hit me hard again. This happened a few times actually. Whenever I'd go to pee, I'd have 2 people that would just be onlookers. Why the hell would anyone want to watch me pee? I'd think to myself. Nothing. Not a drip. I just couldn't. I felt like I was putting on a show for these 2 perverts that were staring at me trying to urinate. I felt like I had let them down. On my way out of the bathroom, I'd look at the mirror for a while at my own reflection. I'd laugh at him. He'd laugh right back. I'd turn my head real quick away, and then back to him. Then he'd turn to the side, and turn back. That was some crazy shit, man. My reflection was on a 1-second delay of sorts. Back at the computer desk, I'd put the headphones on and just listen to more music. There's a shoe rack that's next to the computer. A stack of shoeboxes and some slippers rest on top of it all. Mind you, about now it's probably around 2 a.m. and it's very dark in the room, except for the monitor being on. I'd every now and then turn to the side and look at the slippers. There were a pair of Tasmanian devil ones. You know the kind. You stick your foot in its head. For the longest time I'd see it move around a bit, just wiggling around. I'd take a good look at it, and it'd see someone hiding behind it, staring back at me. I couldn't get a good enough look at who it was, but I swear that someone was there hiding behind the Tasmanian devil slippers. It only made sense to me the next day that it's impossible for anyone to be sitting on a shoe rack, hiding behind a slipper. Enough of this crap. I guess I wanted to talk to someone, so I called up Alex at his house. This was around 4 a.m. Usually I don't call anyone this late, but I did anyways. From what he told me the next day, I had called up just to chit-chat, asking him how his day was going. And then I trailed off mumbling some incoherent shit and that he had to let me go off the phone. I decided it was time for bed after that. I share a room with Frederick, me sleeping on the floor in the foot of the bed. I slid his door open a bit, reached into the room a bit, and turned the lamp on in the room. Didn't take long after that until I burned myself with the light bulb. Then I turned the light off. And it was dark again. So I turned the light on again. And managed to burn myself again. So I turned the light off. This went on like 10 times overall. Frederick was half awake during this time and told me about it the next day. So yeah, I had a bunch of blankets laid out on the floor for me. I wanted to lay on the bed though. I totally forgot that Frederick was already in the bed and I'd go to lay down anyways. I must have almost sat on him on the bed like 6 times. I'd go to lay down on the floor, think to myself that the bed looks comfortable, go to lay on the bed and there he was. Over and over again. I'm not sure how I actually ended up falling asleep on the floor after that, but I did fall asleep. I admit, this trip wasn't as intense and full-blown as I was expecting it to be. But I'm actually glad it didn't get any worse than how it turned out. I was in control during the night, so it works. I'm still waiting on using the actual plant or seeds next time I go ahead and want to go through with this. I want to have the pure, true experience. Just another drug to exploit. In the meantime, I have 4 fat bags of tea left. Gonna split them between me and Alex next weekend. I'll let you know how that works out. I am 27 years old and I do a lot of venturing to the astral plane without the use of any drugs. I was looking for something to open my mind even more. I am friends with the neighborhood teens and they told me of a flower that was growing in a neighbor's yard that they boil and drink to get high. They told me I should try it, so I did. They showed up that night with 7 fully blossomed flowers they were calling angel trumpets. They warned me over and over that the dry cottonmouth that occurs is severe and to have plenty of water around. They boiled the flowers in about 3 cups of water. I added a shitload of sugar to it, filled a large mug with ice and poured the elixir into it. It was very yellow, like piss. It tasted fine with a weird aftertaste. They didn't want any for themselves, so I drank it down rather quickly. Upon finishing, they informed me that they had only had 1 flower when they got high. I immediately started to freak. I ran to the PC, got online and tried to research angel trumpets ASAP. Then it hit me, my body started feeling buzzy, it was almost numb, I started getting a very dry mouth, I mean big time, so I tried to chug water. I tried to walk but I kept crashing, and I mean crashing hard. It was as if something was slinging me around, throwing me into walls. I could not walk, I was falling over everything. I crashed for the last time in the middle of the floor. Passed out. I had not hallucinated. I woke up in the AM to my alarm clock. I had to be at work. When I woke up there were 5 mentally insane, deformed, mutated small people on my couch staring at me. They would not speak, they would hiss at me. I thought they were real. I went to get my shotgun and they started to disappear. I saw a lady with no arms or legs, but it was my lamp. The hallucinations were crazy. I drank the potion down at about 10 p.m. that night. It was now 7 a.m. and I was seeing everything. I could go on and on about what I saw, but I feel it's irrelevant. I hallucinated in my car driving to work. Irrelevant note, it is extremely dangerous and irresponsible to drive while under the influence of a delirious such as Datura. Don't do it. I work at a desk all day by a window. I hallucinated till around 3 p.m. that day. My eyes were dilated severely. They still are, and it's 3 days past. Oh yeah. I woke up in a puddle of blood. My hands and feet were cut. And I have a 50-cent piece sized chunk out of the right side of my ass. Some sort of a puncture. I have no idea how I cut myself. The best thing that has come out of it is the fact that I know it is going to happen about 3 to 5 minutes in advance. I can see stupid things that are of no big meaning before they happen. The thoughts just appear in my head. Then they happen. I feel I had a major overdose and that I am lucky to be alive. My body is pretty torn up and I have no recollection of how it happened. Also, the day after I could not remember anything short term. That was annoying. And my dog eyed me down when I awoke. He seemed like he wanted to growl at me. He was acting very weird. Oh yeah, I had managed to get to the bathroom in the midst of being thrown around. I tried to puke but nothing came up. I had thought that I was going insane that morning. But now 3 days past I feel fine. Be careful. Do not overdose like I did. Be careful and have plenty of water around, and do not do it alone. The people. Me. I have no experience with tropanes, but have done quite a bit of research on them. a young man, 18 years old. He has had a bit of experience with tropines. This isn't his first Datura encounter. He's also an experienced psychonaut, and helped me prepare the tea. J. 17-year-old man who has had a bit of drug experience, but not too much psychedelic experience. He's never tried Datura before, but he has used diphenhydramine. B. Another person. He doesn't have much to do with the experience, he just kept us company during the trip. Setting: it was about 1:30 a.m. when I was asked to prepare a Datura tea. 4 people came to my house, and woke me up. After I got dressed, I picked 2 very large leaves. I cut them up into a 1/4 inch by 1 inch strips. I left out the large vein running the length of the leaf. I let about 3 cups of water heat up, with the Datura foliage, on a rather low heat, for about 1 hour. I then pressed the material, allowing the juices to flow out. I then put it back in the water. Ann and I went out to my front yard, and picked a few more pieces for the tea. We picked 1 more large leaf, a good, growing bell, and 2 dead bells. We also pruned some of the smaller leaves. He chewed on a small leaf or 2 as we did it. We added the extra foliage to the tea, and heated it up so it'd simmer. It simmered for about an hour, then I brought it to a good boil and allowed it to steep. Neither Ann nor I was sure if it would destroy the alkaloids, but we were willing to take that chance. Jay ingested about 1 cup of the tea, which was a light brown tea. He added a bit of sugar and honey into it, and it actually tasted pretty good. Ann drank his cup of tea, and we were left with about another cup. I believe Ann added more water when I was in the shower, though I'm not sure. I only had a few drinks of some tea, about 3 tablespoons full. I was already feeling the drug from when we picked the Datura. We set off. Jay and Ann finished the excess tea, and Jay was obviously starting to become very intoxicated. We were all on foot, on the way to a nice, secluded park. By the time we got there, Jay collapsed on the ground. We sat about, and discussed who was going to buy a few things. Ann and I were set off to go, as we were the least intoxicated. B was sober, so he was assigned to watch Jay before we left. Jay started to purge. It was only tea, with no blood, and very little or no stomach acid in it. He was still smiling as he did it. Ann and I returned from the store, with a bottle of water, 2 bottles of Gatorade, a bottle of Fruitopia, and a pack of cigarettes. We all sat around, and we helped Jay get some Gatorade and water into his body. Jay then laid down in the grass. Ann and I discussed tropines, and what the normal effects should be. I wasn't sure about Jay's purring, as it didn't seem normal. It did seem quite natural, though. B, I, and Ann were all smoking a cigarette, laying back in the grass. Jay stood up, to go urinate. We watched him on the way to the bathrooms, and he would sway off of his path and sway back. He made it though, and had no urinary retention. He came back, and B offered him a lit cigarette. Jay purged again when he looked at it. Jay then had a very strong desire to go home. N, B, and I were all convinced he should stay in the park, but I figured that whatever makes him most comfortable is what is best. N was having a little psychoactive effect, and I was having a bit of a physical effect. My legs were a bit tired, I felt rather heavy, etc. We made it to Jay's house, and Jay only ran into 1 parked car. We kept him from being hit by a vehicle, and tried to keep him out of the road. Walking downtown was an obvious mistake at this point, but we live in a very small city, so after only 5 or 10 minutes of walking we arrived at Jay's house. He laid down, as did N, and B and I sat around talking. I then put in some Dr. Alex Patterson to help with a peaceful trip. Jay laid on his bed, with his head buried into pillows, and put a very large blanket over him. It was also the middle of June when he did it, and very, very hot outside. I told him he probably shouldn't, but at this point he was delirious and mumbled something to me, which I don't quite remember. Ann laid back on the floor, and we all listened to the music. I made Jay drink a bit of water every now and then, but N was doing fine. He could communicate if he tried, but he wasn't very interested in anything but laying down with his eyes closed. B left shortly afterwards, and N was still very conscious. He was able to take care of Jay, and Jay was doing quite a bit better. Jay drifted in and out of sleep. At Jay's house, he didn't unplug the phone. His brother called him, and Jay hung up on him. His brother called 2 more times, and each time Jay would sit on the phone, mumble for a few seconds, then hang it up. Finally, his brother gave up. I started off on a walk. N was still very capable of taking care of Jay, and B was to arrive within a few minutes. In retrospect, I shouldn't have left until B did arrive, but N was just relaxed, not delirious. Before I left Jay's house, I was starting to have a few small visuals. A quick, 20-minute walk helped me a bit. I arrived at home, desperate for something to drink. My throat ached horribly, as did my tongue. Jay was the only other person to experience bad dry mouth. All in all, the trip was very introspective. N had the highest dose, but Jay had the highest amount of effects. I had the lowest dose, and not too many effects. I'd relate my experience to taking 4-Dramamine, but without any severe body load. Jay obviously experienced quite a bit of body load.
I have spent most of my life avoiding illicit substances, Roman Catholic household and all that jazz. That extended to my adult life. My point being, I have no tolerance build-up whatsoever. Still, as far as I know from rare instances when I binge, my liver is my strongest asset, since tiny me always managed to drink burly men under the table. Anyways, I've been experimenting with lucid dreaming for a few years and did some research on microdosing. So one lovely evening I popped 10 Datura stramonium seeds into my mouth. I collected them locally a year earlier. I'm a bit of a herbalist. I chewed on them to make sure the seeds just wouldn't pass through me the next day with no effect. Dreams were vivid but nothing crazy enough to delve into. What stood out happened next day. I received a call from work, that I'm needed, even though I'm on a vacation. I got a bit pissed and wanted to get the most out of the day, so I popped another 10 seeds and went to take a stroll. As I collected herbs I noticed a single precious Datura plant, smelled the gorgeous flowers. All was good and lovely, about an hour after ingesting. I didn't trip, neither did I get tipsy. As I went back I noticed a parrot sitting on a hanging rock. I remembered that my coworker mentioned one escaping from the cage, and since we're basically neighbors I thought it must be his bird. So I approached the budgie and noticed how beautiful it was. No green or blue in its feathers like in most washed down budgies, and a budgie it most certainly was. It was vibrant shiny emerald likes of which I have never seen. Even its feet were emerald. I got close enough to catch it, and I am really good at catching birds, being a vet tech and all, but it got away, chirping. I was so incredibly frustrated. I went back home, sorted through the herbs, but I couldn't get over the escaped bird. I did some research on budgies, wanting to admire them some more. I've always thought they were dull birds. They still are. There's not a single photo of a budgie with the plumage such as the one I saw on that rock. Neither is there a single photo of one with green legs. It's safe to assume the bird was a hallucination. To sum up, 20 seeds within 18 hours. No delirium, just a meeting with a beautiful bird.
I'm not here to tell about the whole experience, which was kind of lame, though it had its nice parts, but it was nothing special, no hallucinations, it was just kind of like sleeping, and my body could barely move. Never mind now. I wanted to see if it will do anything if I smoke the seeds. So I crunched them and smoked it in 3 or 4 shots, I don't remember. Doesn't really matter. When I saw it doesn't do anything I swallowed 50 seeds and waited about an hour, and then it started to work. First thing I noticed is the dry throat. The problem in all that was the part when I smoked it. I completely forgot that it shouldn't touch the eyes. I guess some of the smoke got into my eyes, and now something with my eyes is totally fucked up. Not something too bad, but it's really annoying. Anything that comes 30 centimeters or closer from my face will be just a blurred shape. If I put my hand in front of my face and look up, it looks so weird, makes me feel like I'm on something, because it's just weird. The lower part of my hand is blurred, then the fingers are really long comparing to the rest of it, and I have 10 fingers, something is totally fucked up there. Strangely, my long distance vision got better, I think. Sick shit. By the way, I did it yesterday, and my body's acting weird. My legs, arms, and the entire body just jumps all of a sudden and I can't control it. This side effect is actually nice and pleasuring, cause when it happens I feel some sort of high. I just hope it's not something serious. The weirdest thing about this experience is when today, still kind of high and confused from yesterday, I don't remember going to sleep, I saw my mom for less than a second, moving really fast, wearing a red shirt, and she looked like a ghost. She floated a distance of 1 meter and disappeared. The weird part of it, is that a few minutes later she came out of my parents' bedroom, wearing a red shirt. I thought maybe I saw her with that shirt earlier and that's why my brain came up with this color and created this image, so I asked her, and she said she didn't wear it earlier. By the way, I had those seeds for about half a year, so they are pretty weak. "5:30 p.m. At this time I am building up for the buzz. Ate healthy the whole week, and regularly, exercised, good blood flow, had a great week. Woke up today at 11 a.m. I slept in so that I would be rested to try this new drug. 6:30 p.m. While listening to Mike Oldfield, I start breaking a 4 fresh leaf down. Mind you, I am wearing rubber gloves to protect anything that may come into contact with the plant. 6:35 p.m. Packing the bowl, measured to be 2.5 grams, and starting the first hit. I am by myself through this whole procedure, and plan to be while writing this. 6:43 p.m. Done with the first bowl, repacking another 2.5 gram bowl, feel no effects but my throat kind of sore, got about 10 hits in the last bowl. 6:45 p.m. No time wasted, starting the next bowl. 6:53 p.m. Done with the second bowl. Up to 5 grams of fresh Datura smoked. Feeling absolutely nothing. 7:30 p.m. Tried waiting half an hour at least. Still feeling no effects, only a little sore in my throat still. No visual, audio hallucinations or discomforts, still listening to Mike Oldfield. 8 p.m. About an hour now, has passed by, no effects whatsoever. Okay, maybe I didn't smoke enough? 8:10 p.m. Packing the third bowl, another 2.5 grams, boost me up to 7.5 grams of fresh Datura. 8:19 p.m. Done with the third bowl, sore throat still, and chest burning a bit, other than that, nothing more. Packing the fourth bowl. 8:22 p.m. Starting to smoke my fourth bowl. 8:35 p.m. Finished fourth bowl, now there is about 10 grams of Datura in my body. No effects. Beginning to think this was a waste of time? Going for a walk. Back at 8:52 p.m. Didn't stray from my path, 100% in right mind. 9:50 p.m. Friend calls around 9:30 p.m. Wondering what I'm doing, and if I messed up I tell him this is a joke, and I'm about to throw this stuff away. Waited another half hour, absolutely no effects, the sore throat is gone, and a mild brain tease, not a headache, not even a tingle, just a mild teasing. 10:02 p.m. Packing the fifth bowl now. Thinking I'm crazy because I thought you can die from this stuff? 10:12 p.m. Done with the fifth bowl of Datura, now up to 12.5 grams of fresh leaf in my system. Sore throat is back, nothing else. 10:59 p.m. Thinking this is a joke, starts to pack a sixth bowl. 11:14 p.m. Finished smoking the sixth bowl, up to 15 grams in my system now. Sore throat still there, still nothing else. No kind of discomfort, only the throat, no audio and visual hallucinations of any kind. Normalness is beginning to get dull, since I have smoked grass from your lawn and gotten more fucked up than this. Strange. 12:01 a.m. Starts to rain, going for a walk in the rain. I love doing that when I'm high. Which it might help the buzz. 12:11 a.m. Back from the nature walk. Nothing out of the ordinary, I'm not talking to anything, seeing anything, hearing anything out of the ordinary. This is not good. 1 a.m. Trying, I guess, to pack yet another bowl. Might as well smoke what I can to try and let things kick in. 1:14 a.m. Done with bowl number 7, and to tell you the truth, I am very disappointed. I have been with friends who have smoked this same exact stuff, from the same plant I got it from when I was with them before, and I took a couple hits, nothing major, nothing happened then either, and they have tripped out, puked, yelled, were all quiet, you name it, they were haha. Anyways, the same plant, and I know it's Datura. I have been researching this plant for a couple of months now. And I have not gotten anything from it, yet they get an awesome ride. 1:34 a.m. Still absolutely nothing, eventy sore throat is gone. No dry mouth, no oot thing. I do not get this drug. I have now 17.5 grams of Datura in my body and I am experiencing no change.
My Datura experience can't be described in just a few words. It's a very intense drug. You completely lose touch with reality. It's something I did once and will never do again. Datura is nothing short of a deadly poison. Me and a friend found Datura growing in his front yard. We tried drying and smoking the leaves, which gave a slight sleepy and disoriented feeling. Not satisfied with these results, we decided to ingest it. We broke open 5 seed pods, each which contained about 200 seeds, and crushed them in a mortar and pestle. This turned it into a gloppy paste. Then, we boiled and strained it, which we jokingly named moon tea. I'm not sure of the amount we took. I'm guessing 4 cups each. Nevertheless, we split the tea in half and guzzled it. The last thing I remember is falling asleep in my friend's driveway. Yeah, in the gravel. Tony, my friend, and I were hallucinating to the extreme and laughing uncontrollably at everything. I told Tony I was going home, but instead I followed him into his house and sat down on the living room couch. I switched back and forth between chairs and couches. Then, I began screaming at Tony's parents, saying things like I need something to crush my drugs on and Lynn. Where's my razor blade? Tony's father asked what I was doing, and I replied smugly, I'm discussing court matters with your son. I began unscrewing salt and pepper shakers and dumped them out on the floor, giggling. Datura is a deliriant. In your mind, you're acting completely normal, but nothing you do makes any sense. At all. There's no way to control yourself when you're tripping on Datura. Less than an hour after we ingested it, Tony and I were taken to Medina General Hospital. My dad literally had to drag me inside the emergency room. I was yelling, I'm fine. I'm fine. And laughing feverishly. We waited 45 minutes before I was wheeled to a hospital room. It took a doctor and 3 nurses to strap me to my hospital bed, where they stuck 5 IV needles in my forearm, put electrodes all over me, and hooked me up to an EKG machine. My heartbeat was 180, my breathing 3 times faster than normal. They undressed me and made me wear a backless hospital gown. The only time they unstrapped my legs and arms was when I went to the bathroom. I ran out into the hallway with my ass hanging out and 1 sock on. The nurses basically tackled me and strapped me back to the bed. All that time, I had no idea what was going on, I was totally in my own world. To absorb the poison in my system, they forced me to drink liquid charcoal. Tony was in the hospital room next to me. He actually cooperated and drank his charcoal. Let me tell you, it is the most disgusting thing I have ever tasted in my life. I had no idea at the time that it was liquid charcoal. I was hallucinating so badly, I thought it was Tony making me chug a bottle of Jägermeister. They finally sedated me after I spit it out in the nurse's face. I left the hospital the next day at 1 p.m. I was still fucked up. On the car ride home, I could swear that a jogger waved at me through the car window, but when I looked back, it was only a mailbox. When I arrived home, I had charcoal crusted everywhere on my body, my hair, face, arms, legs, even in my ears. My pupils were fully dilated. I almost died that night in the hospital. I could keep rambling on about the insane stuff Tony and I saw, but I won't. To be perfectly honest, I can't remember everything that happened. Datura completely erased it from my memory. I can recall bits and pieces, but the rest, people have told me. If you plan to try Datura, proceed with extreme caution.
Datura microdosing ayahuasca. For background, I will say that since my travel to Peru 10 years ago, I use plants, including ayahuasca, for healing. My method of practice, like we did in Peru, is to consume a plant/few plants daily, and ayahuasca every week or 2. This way I receive healing in daily life and ayahuasca session, and they are synergic. It is the Amazonian diet with plants system. In Peru I have been given to, which is similar to Datura, by a shaman that specializes in it. I couldn't remember much of the experience, but from what I could remember, it was a nightmare. I had 2 friends who have been profoundly cured by to. Since then I stayed away from this plant. I had a dream in which I saw a snake. I thought Datura wanted to work with me. The snake is poisonous but a symbol for medicine, like Datura. I took 3 to 5 seeds Datura and Oxia twice a day. When I started I felt a bit more concentrated / in the moment right after taking. More relaxed. Somewhat spacey and detached from my body. I began to have vivid nightmares. After about 10 days I discovered that it has been depressing me for the last few days. I was dwelling in my unresolved trauma/issues. For the depression and the nightmare, I decided to stop the experiment. To end, I took about 2.5 grams of Syrian rue powder, waited 15 minutes, and then about 2.5 grams of Mimosa hostilis. This is my normal ayahuasca recipe. With this I have a full ayahuasca experience. Then 2 seeds Datura. More than that with ayahuasca is dangerous. In the experience I felt the Datura like the spirit of my negative dark side. I saw 2 pillars which I assume represented ayahuasca, and a spiral going in between which was Datura. It was like my negativity in this session has been integrated into me. It was healing my relationship with my negativity. At one point I put my hands over a part of my body to which I had traumatic/difficult relationship. As felt that my relationship with it is being healed and I accept it as an important part of my body. After the session I decided that I was dwelling too much in negativity and in my traumas. I decided to deliberately look on the positive side of life, as difficult as it is. It was like the Datura drawing me so much to negativity, has made me decide I don't want to dwell in this anymore. In one of the nightmares I saw a huge tree falling on me. My interpretation is it was a warning that if I go on with this negativity I will break. I still follow this decision. I think I will take Datura with ayahuasca in the future as a method of integrating negativity.